Magellan Player of the Year, Chicago Sky. So she was named the Player of the Year right here for the Chicago Sky, right? 15 times Chicago Sky Player of the Game. All right, 6-time Chicago Sky Player of the Week. 2-time Chicago Sky Player.
So, here's what just went down in Chicago. Angel Reese appeared in 30 games this season, while Kamilla Cardoso showed up for all 40. That single comparison just tore the Sky fan base completely apart. When Chicago announced Cardoso as their team MVP, Reese supporters went absolutely nuclear. We're seeing trade demands flying around, claims of total disrespect, and fans literally promising to disrupt games at Wintrust Arena. All this chaos over a team award for a squad that managed just 10 wins. But dig deeper and you'll realize this goes way beyond one trophy or one disappointing season. This whole situation exposes questions about who can actually stay on the floor, injury concerns that keep piling up, and a front office that seems to be making a very calculated statement about their future foundation.
Last year on the Chicago Sky, of course, we had Angel Reese that, I'll be the first to tell you, Angel Reese had an improved season. She went on a run there for maybe about 15 games where she showed signs of actually shooting much better from the field. She raised her field goal percentage a lot from her rookie year. I always want to be fair on the channel, right?
Let me break down what Angel Reese actually accomplished in 2024. Sure, her shooting efficiency jumped up significantly from her first year. She put together a solid 15-game run, where everything seemed to click offensively. That deserves credit. But then September arrived, and a wrist injury knocked her out, with 10 games still on the schedule. During that same time frame, Cardoso never missed a beat. She put up 9.7 points and 7.9 rebounds, while shooting 52. The coaching staff handed her Player of the Game recognition 15 different times. The statistics paint one picture, but the explosive reaction to those statistics reveals something much more significant.
Well, Rhodes, are you saying that Angel wasn't hurt? No. I'm just saying maybe they gave it the fuzzy eyeball just a little bit. In light of the fact that the team was bad, second year in a row, precedent from the rookie year and unrivaled of just stopping, not playing anymore. And then it happens yet again.
Now check out what's actually happening on social media, because this is where everything gets exposed. One comment reads, quote, "Stop acting like y'all didn't give it to her. We saw the stats at the middle and end of the season. What they're really saying is Angel got robbed blind." Another fan posted, "I hate you guys. We will make it known at Wintrust." That's literally threatening to cause problems during home games. All this outrage over a Player of the Year trophy for a team that couldn't even reach 11 wins. But here's what nobody wants to address. If these Angel Reese supporters feel this strongly about Cardoso getting recognition, where were they when the Sky needed fans and seats during the actual season? Chicago barely pulled 1,500 people per game unless Caitlin Clark happened to be visiting. So where was all this incredible passion when their team was actually playing games that mattered?
Oh, but it didn't stop there. I hate you guys. We will make it known at Wintrust. Will you? Because you don't even sell it out for Angel. Question mark. You don't. I mean, you're 1,000 and 1,500 fans light every night of selling that place out. Unless Caitlin's around. Woo! Honestly, still shitting on her. Chicago definitely wouldn't have won those.
Look closely at the specific language these fans are using. One writes, Chicago definitely wouldn't have won those 10 games without her, followed by laughing emojis. Another says, y'all just are not a serious organization. Then there's 40 games played. That's nasty work. See the pattern developing here? They're not celebrating what Angel accomplished during her time on the court. Instead, they're attacking Cardoso for the crime of being healthy and available. They're actually mocking the concept that showing up every single night has value. And that availability issue is where everything gets really messy. because this marks the second straight year that Angel Reese watched her season end prematurely due to injury. First came the ankle problem during her rookie campaign. Now we've got the wrist situation in year 2. Factor in how she stopped participating in Unrivaled after just a handful of games, and you can understand why team executives might be asking some hard questions about reliability.
You guys know I'm a huge Kamilla Cardoso fan. I do. I believe this is the player that the Sky should be building around. In a perfect world, would I love to see point guard Caitlin Clark feeding the ball in to the absolute monster that is Kamilla Cardoso down in the paint? Yeah, I would love to see. That's feeding families. I want to see that one day, I hope. Right? Then you've got a true Stockton and Malone kind of situation going down.
This award decision could signal something pretty major about Chicago's direction. The content creator I'm referencing here admits he didn't even bother covering the story when Angel announced her plans to stick with Chicago after what's expected to be a challenging 2025 season. His reasoning, interest in Angel, was actually declining. But then he poses the much more important question. Does she genuinely want to return, or do the Chicago Sky actually want her back long-term? That's the real tension hiding beneath all this Player of the Year drama. Because if you're sitting in the Sky front office, you're looking at someone who publicly criticized teammates in that Chicago Sun-Times piece. Someone who got suspended by the organization. Someone who received the cold shoulder from her own teammates afterward. Someone who then ended another season early due to injury. Meanwhile, Cardoso played every single contest, avoided all the off-court noise, and immediately went overseas to dominate international competition with performances like 29 points and 9 rebounds.
Having it. Gave her the cold shoulder, the Sky gave her a suspension, all of that. And I got to be honest, I didn't do a video on that because the interest in Angel has just slowly but surely started dropping. But, I wonder, does she want to, she may not want to come back, or maybe she's decided I want to come back, but do the Chicago Sky actually want her back? That's something that we haven't actually talked about.
So, what do the Sky actually need moving forward? The video creator points out that on a legitimate championship roster, Angel would realistically be the 5th scoring option, not the primary or secondary focus. Chicago desperately lacks reliable shooting throughout their lineup. Cardoso brings them legitimate size, remarkable efficiency, and consistent production in the paint. She's converting over 52% of her field goal attempts. She's a legitimate post presence who can serve as a defensive anchor. The creator even shares his ideal scenario, imagining Caitlin Clark feeding Kamilla Cardoso down low. A true point guard and center combination with that kind of dramatic size difference. Obviously that won't happen since Clark is committed to Indiana long-term. But it shows you what basketball minds see when they evaluate Cardoso. A cornerstone piece you can construct an entire system around. The real question becomes whether Angel Reese complements that foundation or creates problems for it.
Laughing. What is there to laugh at? Camilla's a hell of a player. What are we doing? What kind of fandom is this? I'm sorry, y'all just are not a serious organization. 40 games played. That's nasty work. Your greatest ability is your availability, in fact, I hear. We aren't serious. And there's some fans giving her love. Congrats. Yourself. I don't know what to tell you. Yourself. Congratulations. Demand a trade.
Take a look at these next responses because they show the fundamental gap in understanding. Someone posts your greatest ability is your availability. That's nasty work. That comment immediately got overwhelmed by Reese fans who viewed it as completely disrespectful. But is calling out availability actually disrespectful, or is it just reality? In professional sports, you cannot influence winning if you're sitting on the bench or in street clothes. Cardoso was on the floor for all 40 games. Reese was on the floor. One supporter wrote, "Congratulations, now demand a trade. This organization is trash." Think about that reasoning for a second. The Sky give an award to the player who participated in every single contest, and the response is that Reese should leave town. Another fan commented, "Sky won 10 games. Y'all worried about having a player of the year, but if Angel had claimed this award, those exact same supporters would be celebrating it as complete validation." The double standard is crystal clear, but underneath that obvious hypocrisy lies something more revealing. These fans simply don't understand or appreciate what Cardoso contributes to winning basketball.
Post the stats. Again, one added 13.6 for an extra 10 games last year. By the way, at 52.8% field goal percentage. Why does a hypocritical team like the Sky want Angel Reese back if they already have Cardoso to build around? Laughable. I mean, look, one could argue if they knew what they was doing, and
Now, here's where the front office math becomes really complicated. Could the Sky actually utilize both players effectively if they had competent coaching and proper management? Possibly. The creator suggests that if they could get their act together organizationally, they might be able to construct something around both Cardoso and Reese working in tandem. A dominant interior presence paired with an elite rebounder who's steadily improving her offensive game could theoretically work well together. But that scenario requires both players to stay healthy, embrace their specific roles, and put team success ahead of individual recognition. Based on everything we witnessed in 2024, that's asking a lot. Reese criticized teammates in public interviews. She faced a suspension from the team. She ended her season early due to injury. And now her supporters are attacking the teammate who literally showed up and performed every single night. If you're the Sky general manager, what kind of message are you sending by handing this award to Cardoso? You're establishing that availability has value. You're stating that professionalism matters. You're making it clear that you notice who consistently shows up when the team needs them. Let's zoom out and examine the bigger picture here, because this whole Kamilla Cardoso Player of the Year situation exposes something crucial about where the Chicago Sky stand as an organization and what they're dealing with regarding their fan base dynamics. First, let's address the pure basketball reality. Cardoso earned this recognition through measurable excellence at every level. 15 Player of the Game selections, 6 Player of the Week honors, 2 Player of the Month awards. Those aren't participation trophies handed out for sympathy. Those represent consistent high-level performance week after week. The 40 games played compared to Angel's 30 isn't some minor statistical difference. That represents 25% more availability during a season where every game mattered. In a 40-game schedule, missing 10 contests is absolutely massive. But here's what makes Cardoso's season even more remarkable. She accomplished all of this as a rookie playing for a completely dysfunctional organization that managed only 10 total wins. She didn't benefit from competent coaching or a functional offensive system. She simply arrived every night, executed her role, protected the rim, finished efficiently around the basket, and maintained her health. Those represent exactly the characteristics you want from a foundational player. Now let's contrast that with Angel Reese's campaign. Yes, she demonstrated significant improvement during that 15-game stretch where her shooting percentage jumped considerably. That represents genuine progress that deserves acknowledgement. However, she also dealt with a suspension following that Chicago Sun-Times interview where she publicly criticized teammates. She dealt with those same teammates giving her the cold shoulder afterward. Then the wrist injury ended her season in September with 10 games still on the schedule. The injury itself isn't necessarily the problem. Injuries are part of basketball, but when you combine that injury with the pattern from her rookie year, with her decision to stop playing in Unrivaled after just a few games, and with all the off-court drama, you begin to understand why team executives might be questioning commitment and long-term availability. Those questions matter tremendously because the Sky are facing a critical crossroads. They've endured back-to-back disastrous seasons. They fired their head coach. They need to establish their identity, and determine their core foundation. When you're in that position, you build around players who will be there every night, who avoid unnecessary drama, and who elevate everyone around them through professionalism and consistency. That perfectly describes Kamilla Cardoso. The question becomes whether Angel Reese can develop into that type of player, or whether she'll always come with complications that outweigh her on-court production. Now let's examine the fan reaction, because that's where this story becomes genuinely fascinating. The Angel Reese fanbase is massive, passionate, and extremely active online. They've constructed an entire identity around defending her against perceived disrespect and unfair treatment. In their perspective, this award represents another example of Angel being denied what she's earned. But examine what they're actually arguing. They're not claiming Angel posted better statistics. They can't make that argument because the numbers don't support it. They're not saying Angel contributed more to winning. They can't claim that because the Sky won 10 games with both players on the roster. Instead, they're arguing that the award is disrespectful, that the organization lacks credibility, that Angel should demand an immediate trade. That tells you this isn't really about basketball analysis or objective evaluation. This is about identity and perceived grievances. The Reese fanbase has invested so heavily in the narrative that she's undervalued and disrespected, that any recognition given to another player feels like a personal attack, even when that other player clearly had a superior, more consistent season. Here's the fundamental problem for the Sky. That passionate fanbase doesn't actually convert to support where it generates revenue. They're not purchasing tickets, they're not filling Wintrust Arena on game nights. The Sky averaged roughly 1,500 fans per contest, unless Caitlin Clark happened to be visiting town. Where were all these devoted Angel Reese supporters when the team desperately needed them in the stands? They were online. They were active on social media defending Angel, attacking critics, and building mythologies around perceived disrespect. But they weren't at the actual games supporting the team financially. That's a disconnect that front offices absolutely notice. You can accumulate millions of social media followers, but if they don't convert to ticket sales, merchandise purchases, and measurable revenue impact, what's the actual business value? Compare that dynamic to someone like Caitlin Clark, who generates sellouts everywhere she plays. Compare it to A'ja Wilson, whose supporters pack arenas in Las Vegas. Those players have fan bases that translate directly into business impact. The question for Angel Reese is whether her online support will ever transition into actual financial support for her team. Now let's address the uncomfortable topic that's hovering over this entire situation. The injury questions. The content creator specifically mentions that maybe the Sky front office gave Angel's wrist injury what he calls the fuzzy eyeball. He's careful to clarify he's not claiming she wasn't legitimately hurt, but he's suggesting the organization might have had some concerns about the circumstances. Why would they question the injury? Because of the timing and context surrounding it. The team was clearly terrible. The season was already lost. Angel had just experienced the suspension and all the teammate drama, then the injury ends her season with 10 games remaining. Meanwhile, she was healthy enough to commit to playing it unrivaled, but then stopped participating after just a few games there as well. From a front office perspective, you're observing a pattern. Rookie season ends early due to injury. Sophomore season ends early due to injury. First professional off-season opportunity gets abandoned after MMO participation. At what point do executives start wondering about commitment levels versus actual physical limitations? To be completely clear, this isn't about questioning whether Angel experienced a legitimate injury. The wrist problem was real. But there are different degrees of injury in professional sports. There's physically cannot play under any circumstances, and there's could play through this discomfort but choosing not to. Teams make those evaluations constantly, especially late in lost seasons. The fact that Cardoso played all 40 games, maintained her health, and then immediately traveled overseas to dominate international competition makes the contrast even more stark. One player consistently found ways to stay on the court, regardless of circumstances. The other player found reasons to leave the court when situations became challenging. That matters enormously to front offices. It influences every future decision they make. So where does this leave the Chicago Sky heading into the next season? They face a critical decision about their core organizational identity. Do they build around Cardoso as the primary foundational piece and attempt to fit Reese into a complementary role? Do they try making both players equal focal points and hope they can coexist successfully? Or do they decide that the drama and availability concerns surrounding Reese outweigh her production and explore trading her? The Cardoso Player of the Year award might represent the first clear signal about which direction they're leaning. Because giving that recognition to the player who showed up every night, avoided trouble, and performed consistently sends an unmistakable message about what the organization values most. If Angel Reese and her fanbase cannot accept that message, if they interpret it as disrespect rather than fair evaluation of who had the superior season, then maybe a separation becomes inevitable. Maybe Angel does need to demand a trade to a situation where she's unquestionably the #1 option, and where the organization will accommodate all her preferences. But here's the reality about that scenario. Where exactly would she go? What team is going to surrender significant assets for a player who's missed 25% of possible games across 2 seasons? Someone who comes with off-court drama and whose fan base will create chaos if she's not treated as the franchise centerpiece. That's an extremely difficult sell in a league where roster spots are precious and every decision carries enormous weight. The truth is that Angel Reese is a solid player who could develop into a very good player if she stays healthy and continues improving her offensive game. But she's not a franchise-altering superstar. She's not Caitlin Clark or Aja Wilson or Breanna Stewart. She's a high-level role player who can impact winning in specific ways if she's placed in the right situation with the proper supporting cast. And Kamilla Cardoso might actually be much closer to that franchise cornerstone level than most people realize. She possesses legitimate size at 6'7". She's efficient around the basket. She protects the rim effectively. She played every single game as a rookie on a terrible team and is currently dominating professional competition. Those represent the building blocks of a foundational player. Maybe the Sky got this decision exactly right. Maybe Cardoso earned this award not just based on her 2024 performance, but based on what she represents for the franchise's future. Availability, consistency, professionalism, and production. Those are the qualities that build championship organizations. The question is whether Angel Reese can develop those same characteristics, or whether she'll always be the player who produces good numbers when she's on the court, but brings too many complications to serve as a building block. Based on the fan reaction to this award, based on the pattern of injuries and drama, and based on the Sky's decision to recognize Cardoso rather than trying to appease the Reese fan base, I think we already know the answer. The Chicago Sky are constructing their future around Kamilla Cardoso. Everything else is open for negotiation. So here's what I want to know from you. If you're running the Chicago Sky, do you fully commit to Cardoso as your franchise centerpiece and try to trade Reese while she still holds value? Or do you give it one more season to see if they can coexist and both stay healthy? Because I don't believe you can build around both of them long term. Their styles don't complement each other effectively enough, and the fan base dynamics create too much toxicity. The Sky have to choose their foundation, and they just told us who they're choosing.